Oh, that was a great introduction, Nirav. Thank you very much. So, accessible web application. Now, whenever I ask people what is an accessible web app, the answer I often get is that it is a product that is designed for people with disabilities. Now, I find this definition correct yet incomplete. For me, an accessible web application is not a product that is built just for the people with disabilities. It is a product that is made so frictionless that anybody can build it, anybody can use it, right? And I find accessible problem particularly interesting because the solution we often get from them is not only helping a small community of people, but it often transforms how we use that product altogether. Let's take an example of closed caption. Now, closed caption was introduced. Okay, before that, there are two ways. Okay, like how far you want to go for making your page accessible can really vary. You can introduce a input device that is used by just 0.01% of the population, or you can be and it can be as simple as having translation available for your product, so that non-native speakers can also understand and can also use your product, right? Now, again, let's take an example of closed caption, which actually captures the main point that I want to make. Okay, now closed caption was first introduced in the early 90s for people like for the community of hard of hearing, so that they can enjoy talkies, right? So they can understand talk is what is going on there, right? But today, everybody uses closed caption because it is so damn useful. You can use it to watch a movie at a noisy place. Let's say when your neighbor is having a party and you are not invited, so you can watch a movie. Or maybe you can watch a movie with some illegible dialogue. I mean, we have Christopher Nolan racing that. Thank you for Tenet, Christopher. And finally, you can watch uh, like stuff in foreign languages that you like, that is not yet dubbed in your language, right? And this actually boomed industries such as anime and South Korean drama. Now, people love this. The viewers of anime love this sub version so much that they even fight over which is better, sub version or dub version, right? This had so much impact. So a feature that was introduced for people with a disability is used by everyone. That is what a great design is, right? So let's dive in and take a look at how we can improve, like how we can add little bit more accessibility in our own web application. Okay, but before that, before we jump into that, I wanted to answer one question. Okay, so I've made this simple page. Okay, what I wanted you to do is tell me how many distinct HTML elements I have used in this page. Okay, you have precisely 5 seconds. You don't have to tell me the answer. Okay, just keep the answer with, and we'll see the answer in 5 seconds. Right? Go. Okay, time's up. So I have used one distinct HTML element, and that is div. As you can take a look at here, I have used div for each and everything, and I still got like this design, right? Now the question arises, why? Why would you make such a thing? I mean, it could be a part of a CSS challenge. You know, front-end developers love CSS challenges, single div challenge, no div challenge. It could be part of that, but that is not an important question. The important question is, if I can build a page using div, why bother using other HTML elements? Why do we have other HTML elements? Now, that is a great question. That's what I'll try to answer. Okay. The simple answer is abstraction. Okay. Now just take a look at how much code I have written just to get to that basic styles, right? And compare this with when I have used the semantic elements. So compact, so little code, so beautiful. Okay. But again, we'll have a question. Yeah, Deepak, we can get the default styles, but when was the last time you have seen a large scale commercialized application using these default styles? Again, great question. Never. Okay, so the question is, now before that I'll show you the result. Okay, we have the same result. Yeah, so again the question is, if it is we are not getting advantage in style, then what else? Okay, we always use some kind of CSS reset followed by some other CSS library, custom CSS, all of those things. So this thing will get lost. So other two reasons being uh, abstraction of functionality and abstraction of context. Okay, now talking about abstraction of functionality, some HTML elements like button, okay, they have JavaScript right built into it, which means you can use it by your mouse or using your keyboard. You can click it, you can press enter, press space, you can hit tab, and it just works right out of the box. You don't have to write any single additional code to make it work. Awesome, right? By using semantic elements, you can take advantage of those functionalities. And finally, the most important of all, abstraction of context. Just because semantic elements are so limited in number and they have area attributes sprinkled all over them, we know for sure what each and every stuff within our page actually stands for. And it is great when you want to pass that content. Okay, it is good for accessibility purpose and for other purposes as well. Let's say you want to build an assistive technology, a screen reader. Okay, now you know that that random purple box you see on the screen, that is not a random purple box, that's a button that is clickable. When you click on it, it will perform some action. Awesome. Context helps with it. Or let's say you want to build your own search engine, you want to parse your content, you can easily skip the content within the aside tag because we know it is not that important. Why? How can we do that? Because of this context. Now this again, these semantic elements have their own context built right into it, but what if you want to add some additional context? Can we do it? Yes, again, using area attribute, number one, or second, using some elements together. Okay, using area attributes, I can actually tell that this div that you see purple box, normal purple box, I can add role button and tell my assistive technology, yeah, it is a button. That's how I can add additional context. And secondly, by using some HTML elements together. Here I've used figure and figure caption. Similarly, you can use input and label, and you can use table and caption, etc. Moving forward, let's talk about linking state with styles. Okay, now to understand this, let's take a simple example. Okay, so we have a simple example. Here we have a button and we have a simple div element. Okay, now what we are trying to do here is whenever I click this button, we are toggling the visibility of this div. Simple, right? And I have also in the HTML code, I have also added area expanded as false to give it a state of what it is doing. Okay, now in the CSS itself, I've kept it really simple. I'm just added a style to make it appear and disappear. And in the JavaScript as well, what I've done, I'm toggling that class, I'm toggling that state. Okay, but in this JavaScript code, there is a problem. Okay, the state and the style is been controlled by two different things. One is controlled by an area attribute, and other is controlled by an class. Now, what will happen if I go back? Okay, if for some reason, if I made a mistake and I have put that area expanded as true by default, now what will happen is your assistive technology will say that your button, your div is expanded, but guess what? You can see nothing on the screen. That is a problem, right? Again, you can have test for this, but I think I have a better solution for that. Instead of using class and state to like two separate things, what we can do is we can use both of them together and have something like this. So here what I have done is I have used that same area expanded attribute for styling as well. Now if I screw up that um, default attribute, I made it false, at least my state and style are together, right? And there is one less thing to worry about during testing as well. Moving on, I like to talk about keyboard navigation. Now, I find keyboard navigation again very important for both accessibility and usability, both. Let's say there is a user who can't use, for some reason, they can't use your a mouse, right? So what they can do is, if your website is completely like it is so well made, so good with keyboard navigation, they can use your product just using keyboard. Awesome. You have a new customer who can use it. On the other side, power users love keyboard shortcuts because they are much more faster way to navigate your website, right? So when you have a good keyboard navigation in your page, it is not only helping people who with disabilities, but is also helping everyone who wants to use or who can use the shortcuts effectively. Moving on, first let's talk about how to cycle the focus. Okay, certain elements like button, input, and link, they have tab indexes by default into them, which means they are focusable. Okay, now using this attribute, you can control that focusability yourself. If you, let's say there is a button and you don't want your tab to focus it, what you can do is you can add a tab index of -1 and it will skip the focus. Similarly, you can add a 0 and it will like same number, and it will calculate automatically how to like focus it. So let's say you have a div and you want to make it focusable, just put it 0. Just do a tab index 0 and it will handle automatically. Your browser will handle it automatically. Or let's say you want to take control yourself. Okay, you want to do, first you want to have the last button and the second last button. Again, you can do that by actually using a number instead of 0. Okay, now when you focus on it, focus on any button, you can see that blue border, blue outline around it. Okay, that is the default style of your browser. What if you want to change it? You can do it by using the focus pseudo class. Okay, here I've changed it to a purple color. Again, cool, nothing fancy. But when I use this focus pseudo class, right, what it does is it not only changes the focus color, the outline during focus for like when I'm hitting tab button, but it also changes when I'm using my mouse. Now, if you want this, great, use focus. But I personally, I don't like it. Okay, I feel that outline is important when you're using keyboard tab, right? But when you're using a mouse, you're already pointing it to that element. There is no need to have a different additional outline to showcase it, right? So instead of if you're with me and if you again want that thing to happen, what you can do is instead of using focus, use focus visible. Okay, this is same as focus, but the difference is your pointer elements will not be affected by this. Cool, let's move on. This is the final thing I want to talk about is how you can have transitions and animation, like accessibility and transitional animation. Now, our body has something called as the vestibular system. What? A vestibular system. It is basically helps you keep orientation, like helps you with the orientation and balance. Okay, which means I can do this. Sorry, had some technical glitches. So yeah, now certain people have what we call as vestibular disorder. Now, what is vestibular disorder? Let's take a small analogy to understand. Let's say you're a guy sitting in a car and you're about to drive. You have simple task. You have to go to the mall and you have to get something from the mall, right? Simple. But here's the catch. You're blindfolded and you don't know the way. So how will you know the way? How will you know the directions? Behind the seat, you have your wife and your mother seated there who will be telling you directions. Okay. Now here's the thing. When you start driving, they are telling you the directions. Both said go left, you go left. Both say go right, you go right. Both say go straight, you go straight. Awesome. But there was that one particular intersection. Your mother said go left and your wife said go right. Where would you go? It's a problem, right? If you go left, you have to sleep on the couch for the rest of the week. If you go left, if you go right, you have to miss that dinner that your mom prepared for you. It's a big problem. You panic and you crash the car. Similar things happen with your brain as well. Okay, when there is multiple inputs coming in, okay, one input says, okay, this thing is moving, meaning we are moving, and other input says that, okay, no, we are stationary. Your brain feel dizziness. This is what we call as a vestibular dysfunction or vestibular disorder. Again, if you don't like my definition, you can ask any other medical professional. They can do a better job explaining this. But if you ask me, this is what you'll get. Moving on, this usually triggers using like harsh animation and transition. Okay, even in fact, iOS 7 had this problem before they actually fixed it. Okay, and let's take a look how it actually looks like if this video will play. So we have this page from AirPods Pro, and as you can see, we have, while we are scrolling it down, we have so much animation, so much transition going on, right? For me, it's great, but for some people, this is not so great. So how we can solve this? How we can help those people, include those people as well? So one way is to increase the animation time, because as I have mentioned, it is triggered by not so subtle animation. So increase the animation duration or reduce the amount of time when animation takes place. That is one way. But again, मैं तो जिद्दी हूँ, मुझे तो harsh animation ही चाहिए. Then what? What you can do is you can use media queries for your safety. I mean, for your use. Oh, not this media query, this media query. Okay, the prefer reduce motion media query. Now what this prefer reduce motion media query does is, if your user has selected, you've said that I do not prefer animation, so what you can do is you can remove all the code that removes the animation here. Okay, and this thing is also available in a JavaScript, which means you can also use it there to remove the animation wherever required. A simple thing, right? So this is how the Apple AirPods Pro website looks like when you turn it on. So as you can see, it has removed everything, right? Which means a single website, you can cater both the audience, ones who love the animation and ones who don't. That's how we can treat it. So now what's next? With this, we have came to an end. So if you like what you have seen so far, okay, but remember, what we have seen today was not even barely scratching the surface of accessibility. If you like it, what you can do is, these are some further topics you can explore. You can learn about inclusivity hidden. You can learn about how to use skip navigation, learn how we can further use keyboard shortcuts for keyboard navigation, and also use directional keys. Learn about contrast mode, high contrast mode, CSS values, etc. Learn about design patterns on how these things are made to be more accessible. Finally, we can learn about how to make SVGs accessible. And when we are completed with all of those things, there's one thing left to do: innovate. Build your next feature like closed caption and give it to the world, and it will be a better place. Now, this brings me to the end of the technical part of the session. But before I actually end this session, there's one final thought like I want to share. Okay. Now, when you see this presentation, there will be the possible that there will be one particular question that you may have, and I want to address that. That question is, Deepak, what you've shown today is cool, but it's too much. Okay, and there are actually two tones you ask this question. The first is, Deepak, what you have shown is, it feels too much. I feel overwhelmed. Do I really need to do that? Okay, for that, yes, it will be overwhelming, of course. Let's imagine the first day when you first started coding, okay, and I gave you that AirPods page to build. Okay, you will be like clueless, right? It will be difficult. But guess what? Over the years, when you're slowly learning the skills, if today I gave you that same page to build, you will be able to build it. Same goes with accessibility. If you have never made your page accessible before, it will be overwhelming, and it is recommended to go slow, because personally I have seen people like screw up their pages like very bad just by attempting to make their pages more accessible. So this was the first tone. Second tone will be, Deepak, what you've shown, it seems like too much work. Do I really need to do that? The answer is no. What I've shown you today is not what you should do, but instead what you could do with your page. Okay, ultimately this is your product. If you want, you can line up like 3 different layers of captcha. If you want, you can make the text and background both white in color. Whatever suits your audience, you just do. Remember, there's a product, Vim, right? Vim editor. It is not accessible at all. People, when they enter Vim, they don't know how to exit it. But guess what? The niche people who really knows how to use it, they love that product. Even though it is not accessible for everyone, they have that target audience. Same goes with you as well. If you have your if you know your audience, what your audience want, build it for them. Just you don't if your customer does not need an accessibility feature, just don't give it. It's up to your decision. It's up to you. With that note, thank you.
Do we have any questions for Deepak?
Guys, I just want to clarify one thing, the last question actually.
Yeah.
What did you say? If your customers don't want, you don't need to do it. But I want to make it very, very clear, our customers need it. So we don't have a choice. None of the developers here have a choice. We have to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So the question is, that's the answer for us.
Yeah.
For us, we got to put in that extra effort if it means that we need to put it, and we got to do it.
Definitely.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Thanks, Deepak.
Thank
Thanks for showing such great enthusiasm. Awesome.